Listening Library presents Rosa by Any Other Name by Hailey Alcaraz. Read for you by Victoria Villarreal. To my dad, everything I've achieved is because you told me I could. This novel contains depictions of racism, homophobia, and police violence. These themes are explored within the historical context to highlight the struggles faced by marginalized communities, but some listeners may find them distressing. Please proceed with care and prioritize your well-being. Some shall be pardoned, and some punished. For never was a story of more woe than this of Juliet and her Romeo. William Shakespeare, Romeo and Juliet. Our stories are important. They give us strength. They give us power. Sandra Cisneros. Prologue. The world had a murky, melted look, like I was peering at it all through the bottom of a Coke bottle. It's raining, I told myself. That's it. But my hands, my dress, the ground were all dry. And then I realized it wasn't raining at all. I was crying. That was why everything was a blur. I swiped at my eyes, sniffling and gasping for choked breaths, trying to regain control of myself, trying to calm down enough to understand what was happening. What was happening? There was that smell, smoky and bitter. Was something burning? The crinoline of this beautiful dress chafed at me. All these layers were unbearable. They made it so hard to focus. I pulled at the neckline, desperate for air. My heart raced, hammering inside my chest. It was so loud it almost sounded like... My vision whirled for a harrowing instant as the realization ripped through me. It sounded like gunshots. Chapter 1. Thursday, August 18th, 1955. I woke before the sun, in near silence. Such a rare thing in our barrio. No rumble of overworked pickup trucks chugging between fields of crops on dirt roads. No neighbors calling across fences to borrow a few eggs or a cup of milk. No scampering of feet, or slamming of doors, or music, or... anything, really. Nada. Just the rustle of leaves in a gentle breeze, the faint cooing of a morning dove, and my own pulse. Fast but steady. It's the first day of school, I thought. Scarcely a heartbeat before the rhythm and ruckus of our morning routine came roaring to life with my mother's approaching footsteps. Rosa, hija, ¿estás despierta? Mama's voice called out onto the sleeping porch from the kitchen. She didn't wait for me to answer before busying herself with her next task. I could hear her set a pan on the stovetop, could hear the rhythmic ticking of the gas burner trying to catch. Si, mama, I responded, swinging my legs out of bed at the same time she repeated her question with a hitch of impatience. Mornings were not a time for idleness. I shrugged my robe on, tying the belt in a loose knot over my white nightgown as I made my way inside. Mama was already dressed, setting a plate of fresh tortillas on the table. She wore her usual long-sleeved cotton dress and headscarf to protect her from the sun on the long days spent in the fruit fields. The radio, a big old Westinghouse that sat on its own table in the living room, exuded a steady stream of music, the melodic thrum of the guitar and accordion competing with the noises of my mother's rapid movements. She wasn't one to indulge in many frivolous activities. We didn't own a television, and I'd scarcely seen her sit down to read anything longer than a recipe. But morning radio was her one vice. There weren't a lot of Spanish language options, even in Phoenix, where there were so many of us who spoke Spanish. But early in the morning, there was En Este Momento, a Spanish show targeted at all the farm laborers and workers who rose before the sun. It was much warmer in the kitchen than it was on the sleeping porch, and already I missed the cool solitude of the cot I slept on in the summer months. Buenos dias, Mama said with a quick smile, though she did not stop moving, did not even slow down, gliding back and forth between the stove, table, and counter. ¿Qué estabas haciendo? Her brows pinched together as her eyes darted up at me over the eggs sizzling in her pan. Even though it was early, I knew what she meant. She wasn't really asking what I had been doing. She was worried. And what better way to show it than by prodding with questions she already knew the answer to? Just waking up, I told her, forcing a smile to assure her that I hadn't been lying in bed for hours, contemplating what lay ahead like she feared. The metal kitchen chair screeched against our floor as I pulled it out and sank into it. She made a quick humming sound. Mi querida, are you excited for school? She prompted, switching to English and adding a cheerier lilt. Though her English was heavily accented and often interrupted by bits of Spanish, she tried to use it with me as often as she could, so we could both work on smoothing out the edges of our accents. Mine was almost non-existent at this point, but it would pop up on the most unexpected words, especially when I was nervous or distracted. Mama had always thought it was important to speak in clear American English, no long vowels or rolling R's. Even though I understood why she felt so strongly about it, it still made me a little sad to listen to her squash out her native tongue with the kind of unyielding force I'd seen Papi use to crush scorpions underneath the heels of his work boots. I ironed your skirt for you, she said before I could respond. And your lunch is just over there. She tipped her chin at a paper sack to her right. Gracias, Mama. She shot me a look over her shoulder. Oye, you need to eat something. You can't go to school on an empty stomach. Yes, Mama, I murmured, setting a small scoop of frijoles onto my plate obediently. I could feel the genuine concern underneath her busy fussing. Even after a year of going to school on the north side, deep down I still felt a lot of the same anxiety my mother did about our situation. And with good reason, of course. What we were doing, what I was doing, was dangerous. Integration was happening, sure. The courts told us that it had to, but it wasn't nearly as quick or easy as those folks in Washington seemed to think it was. Race mixing was messy business, no matter how you looked at it. Just because I was allowed to go to school at North Phoenix High didn't mean I was welcome. And your bus money? Mama continued, reaching over to smooth my hair. You'll remember to comb your hair back, yes? It's gotten so long. Maybe I should have cut... Mama? She swept one last lock away from my forehead and sighed, turning back to the sink. A few minutes later, Papi joined me at the table, his movements purposeful and urgent, as always, as he dug into the huevos and papas Mama had placed in front of him. He began talking about the workday ahead of them at the citrus farm with barely a pause after he wished us a buenos dias. He worried about the heat, about one of his friends who hurt his back the day before, about the foreman who always popped up at the wrong time. Oye, Maria, pack some extra napkins in my lunchbox, will you? My hands were so sticky yesterday. He paused suddenly to shoot me a scowl, his cheeks full of food. Why do you look so... He gestured his fork at my face obscurely. Mama glanced at us, nodding in agreement as she placed an empty coffee mug in front of my father. Sí, I thought so too. I struggled to soften my expression into something more pleasing for my parents. I don't know what you mean, I mumbled feebly. Mama reached toward me, placing a warm, calloused hand on my forehead. No está enferma? Papi snorted in relief, busying himself with pouring a splash of steaming hot water into his cup from the kettle Mama handed him. Good. What a day to be sick that would be, eh? He wrenched open the lid to the taster's choice, scooping a generous spoonful of instant coffee into his mug. His dark eyes flitted up to meet mine every few words, watchful and...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?